is Barbara Reiss, and welcome to Totally East Brunswick. We're very fortunate to be here today with Mayor Kevin McEvoy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're more than welcome. It's my pleasure to be here with you and the community.
So we have a lot to talk about. You have many years of respective and active community service. Maybe we could start a little bit about how you were very involved as a coach and a teacher for 35 years here in East Brunswick.
36.
36, eh?
Yeah, that was my profession, Barbara. You know, I came to the school system in 1977 and retired in 2012. And that in itself is community service. You know, there could have been times when I thought about pursuing becoming a principal of a school or even a superintendent. But there was a calling that I felt I had, and that was the classroom. Stayed in the classroom for those 36 years. Yes, I coached our boys and our girls varsity track teams, and we had a great deal of success. We had our slow time as well, but it was truly a rewarding profession. And 2012 came. Donna, my wife, had retired 2 years before that. I decided to join, and upon retirement, I immediately put my name in for the Board of Education and sat on the board for a year, got reelected into the second term, and then the mayoral piece became available when David Stahl took the position as municipal judge over in Woodbridge. Left that void. The process was, since Dave was a Dem at that particular time, Democratic Party had to submit 3 names to the town council, mine being one of them, and the town council selected me. So on February 9th, I became the mayor of East Brunswick and ran ran the township cooperatively and collaboratively. I didn't run the township for a year, and then the election. So Dr. Cohn get elected, and Brad took over on January 1st, 2017.
So you have a long history of community service here in East Brunswick. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy as mayor these last months.
Well, the thing about the mayoralship, it came upon me so quickly. I always had some of the primary Democratic Party philosophical ideas in my head because I've always been a political junkie from the time I was in support of Robert Kennedy's bid for the White House. And as a history teacher, then I was on top of that. And so all of the information that I was teaching became reality when I became the mayor. And I was thrust into the position on February 8th. I put my hand on my family Bible, and on February 9th, I walked into the office and immediately sat behind the desk and said, okay, now what do we do? And I think philosophically what I did was what anyone else would do. I had appointments and meetings with all the department heads so that I got a base of what the township government was and how it worked. And then I began a philosophical approach to work collaboratively and cooperatively with the department heads to run an efficient government here in town.
Now, you had some goals that you were trying to make sure that they were attended to during your time as mayor. What do you think are some of the top accomplishments that you look back with pride?
Well, with regard to the top accomplishments, if I'm going to have to put a list together, I think the first thing was our 9/11 ceremony, in which we brought back that ceremony, which had been absent for the previous 8 years, and we recognized the families of people that were lost on that tragic day. And we had an overwhelming number of people there, and that was something that I can look back and say that was great, and something that will probably continue. Mm-hmm. Governmentally, I think the $40 million contract that we worked out with the Middlesex County Utilities Authority, because we are the host community for the Edgeboro landfill, was very rewarding. And then and that was something that was done quickly in the administration. And then right near the end of the administration, we finished a contract with Comcast. And the big piece of the Comcast contract was the improvements that are going to be happening here at EBTV with regard to the infrastructure right here in the building, as well as the infrastructure of the courtroom. aside from that, there are a host of things that were happening on a daily basis, especially with regard to Route 18, because it's something that everyone has been talking about, is talking about, and will continue to talk about. I inherited from Mayor Stahl the economic redevelopment zones, and then he had not put together his economic development team. So I put that economic development team together, and we were meeting monthly to begin to talk specifically about what was going to go down in those zones. But then we narrowed that down even more concretely to the areas that most residents know as Lomans and the Burger Plaza, which is the old Gap and Whiz property. So those two properties that sort of adjoin one another became something that overwhelmed us with regard to where we're going to take the economic development of the community on Route 18.
Now, you've hosted many business spotlights here for EBTV, a lot of ribbon cutting and opening ceremonies. For those that may not be familiar with some of the new businesses that may either open or will be opening, you could give us a little summary of that?
It's quite extensive, and it really had nothing to do with Kevin McEvoy per se. It really was the economy coming back, I think. So 2016, we saw quite a few applications for new businesses come in that just needed permits, and then we had quite a few businesses that had to go before the planning board. Mm-hmm. And it's in and around the number of 15, 17 new businesses, but the one that that residents can see very clearly would be the old Pathmark building right now, because there's so much construction going on there. You have the auto zone, which is on the far left as you look at the building, the Burlington Coat Factory, the German company Aldi that quite a few people are pretty excited about, and then the pad that sits right in front that's going to have a Five Guys, a Supercuts, and another Starbucks. So it's going to take that particular piece of property and really improve it and make it look similar to the piece of property that has Babies R Us and the Toys R Us. Those are just a couple of examples, but the ribbon cuttings were for anything that was new in 2016 that had opened. We had a ribbon cutting at Pino's Palette, which was pretty exciting. I know a lot of the people in the community are running parties over there. The halal guys came into town, the new Taco Bell. What I tried to do was, whenever there was a new business that was opening, I tried to coordinate with the owners, and they were truly receptive to it, to have a ribbon cutting so that we could demonstrate via EBTV, via my Facebook page, that there was a lot of new things happening in our community on the business front.
Mm-hmm. So as we look forward, and as East Brunswick grows, what are some things you would like to see happen in the future here in East Brunswick?
I think the community is going to be very excited about the new Park Chateau. I think the community is going to be happy that we have a $10 million plus new business going on in the industrial area off of Harts Lane. The Heritage Pharmaceutical Company has come into our community. So these are examples of ratables that would allow some tax relief to our residents that everyone is always curious about. But I think the big direction would be those two economic redevelopment zones on Route 18. There is a mixed use concept that's being talked about, or at least that's what was talked about when I left the office. I'm sure Dr. Cohen is following up on that. So seeing where those two tracts of land go is going to be very rewarding to the community, because that is your entranceway as you come out of New Brunswick on Route 18. That's sort of like one of the first things that you hit. And anyone who's watching this program knows they're getting a little sick and tired of seeing the abandoned buildings there. So it's something that I'm looking forward to see where that actually goes.
So aside from the businesses which we discussed, what else did you work on to improve during your term?
I think the community can look to the conclusion of the Route 18 exit. That's something that when it was first started was going to be a year and a half project, which turned out to be a 4-year project. And there's not enough time in this show to go through all of those. But what did happen was we saw it to its conclusion. And at that part of the administration, the early fall, members of the community started to come to town council meetings. I even had them in my office because they did have some concerns about the 9 lanes of traffic that they had to cross to get over to the park and ride, but they're walking at this point. And even though traffic studies said X, the community still had their concerns. Department of Transportation was contacted by my office, and we did an application for a crosswalk that has been left in the new administration's hands to see if that can be completed. And it's something that would be another expense on the part of the, not on the part of the township, but on the part of the state government. But the fact that the exit was completed at a cost of $34 million, which none of that was paid for by the East Brunswick taxpayer. We added an additional $200,000 so that on the western side of all of the sound barriers, we were able to plant numerous trees and bushes so that it looks rather aesthetically attractive to the residents in that section of our community. Another piece of governance that I'm proud of is the $1.4 million that was spent this year on the completion of Crystal Springs. And when I say the completion, there was a 3-phased plan, and the 3rd phase was the welcoming center, the bathroom facilities, the locker room facilities, and the kitchen facilities that will complete this. It was something that the governing body thought they could do in 2017, but because of revenues from 2015 and 16, we had enough money to do that project. Initially, it came in at $2.8 million, and we were able to negotiate and talk and work and figure out a way to reduce that cost to 1.4 mil. And as a result, when it opens up, the community is going to be pleasantly surprised that our Crystal Springs is as we all know, a state-of-the-art and completed center.
Well, it's a very popular facility. People are going to be very happy about
yes,
that.
Very much so. Mm-hmm.
So now for the fun side, what were some of the fun things, the fun experiences that you had as mayor?
I think one of the most fun I had was marrying people. And at last count, there were 48 marriages that I performed. And it was just such a joyful moment in time, whether it was in my office, out at the gazebo, or in the courtroom, to marry someone and then to see the heartfelt joy that brings to the family unit. And then part and parcel to that, it cost $50 to get married. And so the $50 went into the mayoral's charity fund. And at the end of the term, when that would be Tracy Ranzio, the administrative assistant, as well as Jack Lane, the business administrator, were kicking around ideas what to do with the money. I decided to spend $4,500 on the new fence that goes around the community garden because they had petitioned me about trying to help them figure out a way to secure the garden from, I guess, the deer and the other predators who come in and gobble up all of their good stuff. Yeah.
Well, it is a beautiful garden, and the fence is a solid fence. I've seen it.
Okay, good.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So then there's some unseen improvements. Some, as a mayor, you see things that we don't see and that need fixing. What were some of those unseen improvements that people might not notice otherwise?
Yeah, I refer to those as those. That's a good word, unseen improvements. The smaller things that you do that sort of go unnoticed, but then people will bring it up for argument's sake. The new LED lights on Riders Lane. So from the area where you leave our municipal complex all the way out to Summer Hill Road, the lamp posts were there. Some were on, some were off, some were flickering. And we were able to secure new LED lighting, and all the lights are on and all the lights have the same wattage, and it looks really nice when you go through there at night. Another unseen activity was the Memorial Day celebration, in which we named approximately 37 streets that have been named for World War to Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan, Iraq veterans, but now with much larger and clearly marked signs that shows the designation of who that person was. That's another example. And the paving of Route 18. There's certain sections of Route 18 that have been paved. It may not seem like a lot, but there were sections that were in a bad state of, or a needed state of repair. And Department of Transportation was in for a big powwow because what they're planning on doing between 2018 and 2021 is tearing up the entire 3-mile stretch of Route 18, not all at the same time. They're going to be redoing Route 18. So I was able to negotiate and talk with Bob Case and former Councilman Tom Clark, who works for the Department of Transportation. Thanks a lot for your work on this, Tom. Some paving now of Route 18, and that type of small little thing that goes unnoticed, but it's something that whenever I drive on 18 and I hit a good stretch of 18, I recall the negotiations for that. So those are some of the things. It gets constant, Barbara. It's constantly things going on in the office.
Absolutely. So in that same vein, what did you learn about local government and how it runs that others may not realize?
Well, I was fortunate insofar as when I came on as the mayor, I decided to make it my own full-time gig. I was retired, so I decided that I was going to come in 8:30 in the morning until 1 o'clock, because that's when Administrative Assistant Ranzio goes on lunch break. So from Monday, and I didn't work Friday. This way I wasn't there and they could sort of do their thing without the mayor being around. And what I learned was that I'm not preaching for a full-time mayor. That I'm not. But I was a full-time mayor because I was in there, and even if there was something, even if the calendar had nothing on it, there was still stuff to be done, because there was still an email to return. There was still a phone call. There still was a surprise visit from a department head person who needed information on this. And so I never really understood the magnitude of the job. For argument's sake, comparing the Board of Education, which is one governing body, to the town council and the mayor, which is another governing body. You, being on the board, understand that you're one of 9. Over here, it's me. So there's no time to hold a meeting. There's no closed session to chat about stuff. It's stuff that has to be done. A decision has to be made. And I didn't understand how rewarding and exciting that part of the job could be. And it just fit into who I was, because most people who do know me know that I'm a no-nonsense kind of guy. And I would seek advice. There's no doubt about that. You know, what do I know about tax assessment? I'd have to go see the director. What do I know about engineering? I don't think so. What do I know about affordable housing? The work that Linda Rubenstein and Deborah Rainwater and Steve Gottlieb, the work that they do on that to keep us ahead of the curve was fascinating. And to just follow up on what they had to teach me is how I came upon decision making.
And also there were a lot of annual events that you brought back or that you rejuvenated. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I just continued what the Parks and Rec Department was doing. I see you and the family at our Memorial Day service. I see you at the Veterans Day service, the 9/11 service. You know, we added our Holiday of Lights, which was out of sight because I never expected 800 people to show up. I'm sure the 100 Girl Scouts who were there to light the menorah and light the tree had something to do with it. But that was exciting and fun. Our traditional Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies are something that I inherited. That's something that our community looks forward to. It's something that we are all proud of. The only twist I think there was I tried to find a guest speaker. When I brought John Myers in for the Veterans Day celebration, I felt that he was a former student of mine who served in Iraq, and he's a millennial, so he can relate to that crowd. Kristen Stout-Deffler was our speaker at at Memorial Day, and she too was a student and athlete of mine, and she had a tour in Iraq as well, and she spoke magnificently, because we're at that phase where the World War II guys are really too old, and the Korea and Vietnam guys, we put them together. They've been very active, and they've been at all of our ceremonies, and they've reached out to the mayor's office to say, what can I do? And so bringing in the next wave was important to me.
You've discussed a lot of different areas. What areas do you wish you had more time to complete? A few more months in order to make that happen?
Well, I'll tell you the one that was truly exciting that didn't happen. It was early, very early in the administration when I reached out to then Assemblyman Pat Duignan, now Senator Duignan, who I've had a long relationship with. And I said, hey, Pat, is there anybody that you know over at Rutgers University that I could contact in an effort to draw Rutgers University over into the PNC Towers? And so he gave me a name. Keep the names out of the discussion. And I made the contact with Rutgers University, and they welcomed us coming over to the university to talk about this. And so it was myself, Greg Pekulski, Jack Lane, Dave Lonsky, and Mike Baker, who are professional lawyers who are friends of mine and have both been very active in the community. And so we went over to Rutgers University. We met in the 1776 hall, which is right there in on the chapel grounds, which is one of the earliest buildings of the university. And the designated leader who I had communicated with brought two trustees to the meeting, and I opened up the meeting by explaining to them my ideas, keeping it soft and simple, not going into any details, because I'm not going to tell Rutgers University what they should do. I just wanted them to see what the possibilities were, and then I handed it over to Greg, and then Lonsky, Dave Lonsky is a big Rutgers alum, so he started talking as well. We then invited the same group over to the towers, where we visited the towers. We saw the possibilities that existed there, the Hilton Hotel as well, but it just didn't happen. And it was frustrating, but I understood that it's part of the political process. When you make a phone call to someone and you say, hi, this is Kevin McEvoy. Yeah, okay, they put you on hold and you wait. When you call and you say, hello, this is East Brunswick Mayor Kevin McEvoy, all of a sudden people take the phone call. So they were receptive to what we wanted for us as well as them, but it's just something that just did not happen.
Mm-hmm. And one thing we didn't touch upon is our excellent police and fire and EMS departments, volunteer as well for the EMS. Tell us, and the fire, tell us a little bit about how they helped with your administration.
Well, it's interesting how when I first became the mayor, or for years before that, I would always say that in East Brunswick, it's the schools, it's the schools, it's the schools. And then when I became the mayor, I realized that it's public safety and the schools. So I gave a little bit of a higher notch to the men and women who keep us safe. It's only through the various meetings with the new police chief. He was Jim Conroy was our new chief just 3 months before I became the mayor, so he was new to it. So the whole year was a learning curve for him as well. And it's during that time that I learned all the ins and outs of what a police force does, aside from something that the residents might know, which is just, you know, they're there to keep us safe. But there's so much more, layered after layered after layer. And it was rewarding to be working with the men and women who do keep us safe. Fire departments, the 3 districts, and I can't speak enough about how our volunteers keep us safe as well, whether it's a small little brush fire or something such as, it was about a year ago, just shortly after I became the mayor, when they had the fire at Macy's, and they put that out as quickly as possible. So kudos to our fire department, and similarly our emergency volunteers who work the ambulances in conjunction with the contract that St. Peter's has to run ambulances here in our community. It's second to none throughout the county.
Yeah, we're very fortunate
Right.
for all three areas, especially in these times.
Right.
So just to conclude, we've had a really great discussion. I feel we've got a wonderful view of your experience as mayor. You have some dealings with different mayors and different officials from different towns that have written to you at the close of your time here. Did you want to share any of the thoughts that you've received?
I did bring, I received a nice letter from Ed Leipold as soon as I became the mayor, because Ed is our director of IT over the school system, and I was on the board when we hired him. He talks. My big thing when I was on the board was the technology, and so I've stayed in contact with teachers, and the technology piece is really taken off. And you know, but that was a very congratulatory and complimentary letter by Ed. Senator Pat Dignan, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your service as the mayor of East Brunswick. You have experienced the highest honor which anyone can receive in a democracy, a representative of the people. And Pat and I have had long talks about local government and how important local government is. So that was very rewarding. I received a letter from Lou Neely. Everybody goes to Lou Neely. Lou's been around so long, he has all the answers to most of the questions, and he said to me, I think you have 4 character qualities which we all saw. One was consistency, the second authenticity, the third unselfishness, and the last, you were tireless in your proclamation. It doesn't so much speak to Kevin McEvoy as it speaks to anyone who is a service-related volunteer, whether it's Barbara Reiss or Kevin McEvoy. You're going to receive those same letters. All of the people in the community, whether you're working on the traffic safety committee or you're a trustee with the library, these are the things that are said about all of us, because what we have in it's almost as if it's in our blood. It's the well-being of our community. And so for the 1 year, the 11 months that I was the mayor of East Brunswick, it was truly a rewarding, challenging, exciting time in my life. And I thank the community for the ability to serve them.
Well, we thank you for your service and your dedication to East Brunswick all these
Barbara.
years. And we look forward, you're working on a book, I understand.
Well, as everyone knows, wherever Kevin McEvoy goes, his notes go, and I am an avid note taker. And each day in the office, I was taking notes. And out of that, I'm going to try. I've never written anything before. I'm going to try and put it all together as the suburban mayor who served for a year, and see where it goes, see if I can get a publisher. And if we do get a publisher, I'll be able to sell, I'm sure, a couple of copies here in town.
We look forward to hearing from Mayor Mack. Thank you so much,
You're
and
welcome.
we appreciate your time here today and all your good deeds and service to the community.
Thank you, Barbara.
This is Barbara Reiss reporting for Total East Brunswick. Thank you for joining us.